Hello, my name is Richard, and I'm going to kind of put an update on the series of videos that I did on this character 4 years ago. It's Dr. Henry Walton Jones, Sr., from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and was played by the late, great Sean Connery. And the first video, I talked about the suit and the shoes, I think, in the bow tie. So in this video, but I forgot to mention the cufflinks and the pin. So in his waistcoat, he wears this pin. And I did a lot of searching on eBay. I mean, I looked at hundreds of pins to find one. Now, I'm from West Virginia, so I say pin. So this is a pin and this is a pin. So sorry about my pronunciation. Should be pen, I suppose. But for a pin with this exact shape of top, this rounded dome, and this, I don't even know if you can see it, this certain curve it has. And I finally found one, though the pin should be black. And I could not find a black one, only in this kind of burgundy or dark brown. And the company is called Edushko Top Shop from Germany. And it came in a set with a pen, a pencil, and I want a practical, you rotate it, it's actually a working ballpoint pen. It's not a fountain pen like in the thing, because, you know, if I'm out of a Comic-Con and I want to write something down, it's nice to have an actual pen. And then I didn't mention the cufflinks. So it says in that Suits of Bond page on the Henry Jones Sr. costume, it says that they're gold and the cufflinks are round. There's a couple pretty good pictures where they look like they're oval. So I have the oval cufflinks. Now they're two different styles. They look the same from here. One of them is just the kind of quick and more modern style where you have it just has the oval thing on one end, and then it has a thing goes through straight and then you rotate it. But that's fine. But on the inside, if you can happen to see this side of your cuff, you can see this. This is from a vintage pair, and it has the oval motif on both sides. They're sophisticated little things, little hinge, and so that's kind of nice, because then if you see not that you're going to see that much in a Comic-Con, but anyway, so I decided to go with that. But I have one of each, so backups. Now the hat. So the thing with the hat from Last Crusade is that it's a very dark tweed. And I don't know if you can even see it in the picture very well, but it's black and like chocolate brown, like really dark brown. And there's some scenes in the film where it just looks black. So for one thing, it's rare to find hats that dark, tweed hats that dark. It's also difficult to find this particular style. And so if you have a lot of these hats, for example, like this one, the top section is a long section that goes from back to front, and there's these side panels. Now this one isn't made like that. So it's got the oval top is one panel, and there's a seam that goes all around. There's no seam in the back or front, but there's a seam down each side. And it's not that common a thing. And here's an example. I think you might be able to see it better on this one. So this is a hat in lighter tweed that has the same construction. You can see it's got the thing here, and then down the sides, in the front and the back, no seams. And this one has got the right construction. The tweed's too light, as you can see. And also, sometimes you don't tell until you get a hat that, you know, it's just really small, so it's not going to work. So I looked at hundreds of tweed hats, vintage ones and new ones, and I realized that the only way I was going to get something that was screen accurate was bespoke, was to have it made. So on Etsy, I found a woman named, her company is called Cherry Pat Hats. She was really cool to work with. I sent her screenshots. She came up with a pattern, and then I went on eBay and bought a vintage Harris tweed sport coat in a small size, like a really small size, and part of it had moth holes. So you can get these really cheap. So you can get really high quality vintage Harris tweed inexpensively. And each length of Harris tweed has its own label with a code number. And so it was really cool. So she took the Harris tweed label out of the jacket and put it in the hat. So this is about as screen accurate. Now sometimes he has the top popped out, but there's a series of pictures, publicity shots that he and Harrison Ford did where he has a little crease, and I kind of like that. So Cherry Pat hats on Etsy. Now, before I got this was just a random, inexpensive, well, it's all smashed up now, hat that I got on eBay, used. I don't know, I paid $20 or something for it. It was too light. I just threw it in a vat of dark brown dye. And this is what I wore for my first couple of years of doing this costume. It's fine. And if you want a really nice thick Harris tweed thing, you know, you kind of have to go the bespoke route, unless you just happen to find one. But I've got a large. I wear like a size 61 centimeter, so I'm not going to find a vintage hat that fits. Now about the glasses. The thing about the glasses is, oh, you may want. Why am I wearing a bloody shirt? Okay, so I'm cosplaying this character, and I'm walking around with a grail, which is a handy prop because I can, you know, you get dehydrated at Comic-Cons walking around, but by the bathrooms, they always have a drinking fountain thing so I can get some water and I can drink it as I go around. And people came up and pointed out that he only drinks out of the grail after he's shot. So I did some research and I put together his look after he gets shot. His waistcoat is unbuttoned, his shirt's bloody, his tie is untied. And there's some quirky things about it. One thing is that if you have your tie tied for the whole film and then untied at the end, it's not going to be pressed and perfectly flat, but it is. So that's a little continuity quirk. Another thing is his bloody shirt is actually only bloody on one side. So this whole side here is bloody and this side is just pure white, untouched by the blood. And I did it like that, and it just was screen accurate, but it didn't look right. It looked like I forgot to do the other side. So I went ahead and made it all bloody, then it just reads better on film. Another thing is, and we're going to get to the watch here, but the watches, the straps weren't all that long, but when he has his waistcoat undone, they had to make this super long strap to go across, which it would never be that long. So anyway, the watch will be later. We'll move on to glasses now. His glasses are a strange hybrid that would have never existed. Now, the rimless was popular in the 1920s and 1930s, but the lenses would have been much smaller. I've looked at hundreds and hundreds of vintage glasses, and the lenses are pretty small, even for an adult man. And I think the reason is it was just the aesthetic. You wanted rimless and you wanted small lenses. You're trying to minimize the impact they had on your face. Now, when was Last Crusade done? Last Crusade was made in the 80s. And think about Stranger Things and Barb, and she's got these ginormous 80s glasses, and those are not exaggeration. That was popular then. And I can see the costumer for Last Crusade. Now, here's Sean Connery. He's the biggest box office star. One of the biggest box office stars in the world. And he goes, and I can see the costumer saying, I am not going to put Sean Connery in these dorky little tiny glasses. Nowadays, that's hard for us to understand because we have big stars like Johnny Depp who have appeared in films with these little like vintage glasses. So now it's cool, but believe you me, in the 80s, it was not cool. You had to have the glasses. So what they did is they basically took, the vintage hardware from glasses back then, but married them with these lenses that are too big for the period. Another interesting thing is that the bridge, I'm calling these the temples, I'm calling this the bridge. The bridge is really small for an adult. And I looked online, and bridges that big would have been in women's glasses or children's glasses. An adult man's glasses never has a bridge that small. And that's the handy thing. So for hardware, you can go on eBay and you can find vintage rimless glasses, and the hardware is always just put on with these little teeny screws, so it's easy to take it off. And they can go for a lot of money, but if they have the glass part, the glass is cracked or part of it's snapped off, nobody wants them and they go cheap. So I got a couple pair of those and they were under $10 each, and I got I think a woman's pair, a small pair to get the small bridge, and then another one to get the full-size adult temples. Now these are the cable, because there's shots where it looks like a cable, but I've also seen a pair that have like a regular modern thing. So they might have made both for the production. Now, where are you going to get lenses? Well, my first plan to get the lenses was from this. So there's a company called Sean, and they were around in the 30s, and they're around today, and they make some of the same styles. And this also popular in the 30s were half rimless. So they're rimless at the bottom. They've got, if you can see here, they actually have a half rim that comes up and around. So they're more, I guess, stable. And in this lens shape, which is kind of a rounded square at the top, but a half octagon, kind of like a half of a stop sign, American stop sign at the bottom, that was really popular. Now, in Last Crusade's glasses aren't quite like that. They're almost like that, but see, these have three flats. They're flat here, and there's a diagonal flat, diagonal flat. His are kind of all rounded, except just with the flat cut at the bottom. Anyway, it's very close. And so I got these, and they look pretty good. And I've worn these with cosplay, even though they're not totally accurate. But I thought I'm going to harvest the lenses off of these. Well, it didn't work because they've got the holes drilled in them for the screws, and they didn't match up with the vintage hardware. So I realized I was going to have to go a different route. So what you can do on eBay, and they're cheap, are like fashion glasses or cosplay costume glasses, non-prescription glasses. They're really cheap. They're like under $10. And there's there's hundreds of them on eBay. There's tons of them, and they're all different types. And so I was able to find one with lenses that were really, really close to the shape. And put it together. So, you kind of dry fit it, and with your little Sharpie, make a little dot where you have to drill the holes, assemble it. And so the whole thing is like $30 or something. So it's inexpensive, it's not that hard to make, and you have really pretty darn screen accurate glasses. Now, the last thing is the watch, or watches, I should say. Because in the film, if you notice, in the biplane scene, he's holding the watch and the strap is coming like that. And he's looking at the time without having to open a cover. And so what that tells you is that it's an open face watch. Because an open face watch, the winder, the stem is at 12 o'clock. Now, when he's on the motorcycle sidecar in the motorcycle chase scene, it's like this, oriented like this, with the winder at 3 o'clock, and you can actually, see him opening the case. So you realize it's a hunter case, what's called a hunter case watch. So yes, two different watches. Now, both of them are, I didn't say that this, as far as these Chiron glasses, I forgot to tell you, the style is called Ron Winnie. I think it's RONWHINNIE, Ron Winnie. So the watches, both of them, because there's pictures of them, and they're supposedly ones that were screen used. Same company. And so it says Jean-Pierre, Swiss made. It says Inca Block, which was kind of like a shock resistant thing they had. And you're not going to be able to see, there, but I actually did drawings, which are a lot better. And this is the close-up showing the faces of the two watches, if you can see a little bit there, and the hunter case and the open face. And I searched for one of these watches for years, and finally one came up on eBay. So I have actually the screen accurate watch. Now, what do I have for a fob? You never see his watch fob. And so what I did is there was something called the 28th International Eucharistic Congress, which was held in Chicago from 20th to 24th June 1926. And it had about 1 million people attending. And it was the first time it was held in the U.S. Eucharistic Congress, what was that? Well, this was a Roman Catholic thing, and it was kind of a several-day-long adoration of the Eucharist. And they had, like things would be back then, they had these little tchotchkes, little souvenirs you could buy. And this is a really nice one because this has got a portrait of the Pope. This is an original. They're not very expensive on eBay. It's got a portrait of the Pope on one side, and it has the date and Roman numerals and so forth. And then on the back side, it's really cool. It looks like right out of something out of the diary. It's a picture of this ornate grail with all these beams of light coming out of it, showing the sanctity of the grail. So in my backstory that I made up for the character, he went to this and he bought this little souvenir and put it on his strap. Now, why is the watch strap leather? We're used to all these films showing gangsters and 20s and everything, and they always have pocket watch chains. In fact, at that time, leather straps, or sometimes they're satin, were more popular than leather straps. So that's what he has, and there's a little buckle. And his vest his waistcoat has the pockets. And so you can put the one with the fob in this side, in this pocket. And there's a special vertical buttonhole for the strap to go through. And you bring it through. I guess I should button up the waistcoat so it looks better. And the strap goes through like that. And then you put your watch here. And then you buckle it. And that's how he appears in the film. You can see, I don't know if you can see it, there will be, see the little buckle there. But then, of course, like I said, when he opens up his waistcoat, it's not very long. So they made this, bizarrely long one for the film. So that is going to do it for this video. And then I have a third part that looks at some of the other ancillary props.